Squatch and Holler. Please like and subscribe.
And hit that bell.
All right, y'all. Surprise. Hold on a second. All right. So we've been thinking about I've been thinking about doing subscriber spotlights for a while. When with a full-time job, I see there's 5 of you in here. Nobody's commented yet. And this is a surprise, and it's the biggest surprise of all is to David because he didn't know what I was thinking. But I'm not going to put his address on here. But I've got the Squatch and Holler stickers, and he sent his self-addressed stamped envelope. And I'm like, you know what? It's a good time to have David on if he can. So he's here, and we're gonna bring him in. Hey, David, how's it going?
Hi, Roger. It's going good. How are you?
Doing good. So, Blue. First of all, this is just laid back. We're gonna talk about whatever. Blue Eyed. Earlier in the other show, I saw your comment, and I felt exactly what you were saying. I didn't comment back, but she said I don't know whether to be impressed or embarrassed or whatever, because that kid was amazing. He told me before and after the show, maybe during the show, he said I'm a little autistic, so when I get locked into something, I want to see it through. So there's no telling how far he's going to take this thing. But David, I appreciate you coming on. We won't take up most of your day, but hey, yeah, I've got Blue Eyed. I've got to go check out a lot of his shows, and I don't know if y'all could tell it or not. I felt not adequate enough to interview him. He was so smart. I love learning. David, you got your bear yet?
I got 2 bears.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. So I've never had bear meat. What does it compare to?
It can be really bad sometimes. Like, if you don't like gamey meat, which I don't like gamey meat. If it's got like wild or ready taste, I can't hardly eat it. But it's really comparable if it's a good bear and it's you get it processed right away and stuff. I'd say it's very comparable to venison.
Okay. Yeah, because I never, I've tried a little bit of a lot of different things, and that's just one I haven't. We don't, y'all go chasing those things, and we're scared of them here because we don't have them in Middle Tennessee. Now you get up in East Tennessee, and the people will cause a traffic jam and car wrecks, stop and look and take pictures of those, but it's a little different, being out in the woods with them. Y'all, on something else. I know Jeremiah's not in. Probably, but I'm gonna put this. I ordered a couple Bigfoot Society morale patches and kind of supporting him. Jeremiah's he's a good friend, and I didn't expect to meet so many people like David. I mean, David, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't mean this to sound sappy or anything, but I've talked to the Woodwalkers crew, and I bring it up all the time. I said, man, if we gave awards for some of the best supporters, as David would be right up there at the top. He should get like supporter of the year. And I know there's others too. You don't want to make anybody mad, but I never dreamed that you get to know so many people. Okay. So how I got started, I was watching these shows, and I your name, you're in there watching. You watch so many different ones. what made you start kind of be interested in watching the live shows?
It was kind of weird. It was just like a random thing. I just one day saw like my dog's barking at the cat.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
fine. We're good.
Okay. Just random like a recommended on YouTube
Hmm.
showed up, and it was Sawdust Beast, and so I was like, I'm gonna check these guys out. So I just started watching it, and man, I fell in love with the group. There were a bunch of nice people, Mark and Larry and Debbie and Shelly and all of them. They were all just really good people,
Right.
and so that kind of got my feet wet, I guess, would be just kind of randomly finding them. And so that's kind of where my roots go back to following the groups and stuff like that. So
And I was kind of the same way. I didn't know this YouTube world existed. If I had have known, I would have been here earlier because of stuff that's happened, in the past. And um, it's I don't know how to put it. I would rather watch Woodwalkers, Red Creek, Sawdust Beast, and I'm gonna miss some of them because there's so many.
mhm.
And when they have the guest on, they're just so down to earth, and you can tell they're being truthful. I'd rather watch shows like that and be in the chat. I love being in the chat with you guys because I'm always, kind of cutting up and, and then and sometimes when I'm in chat, I can think of really good questions to ask, and I may ask them later, here or whatever.
Mhm.
But you had some um, strange things that happened to you to get you kind of interested, didn't you? In
I
some of the,
did. Starting basically from childhood days. I'm sorry, I'm having to move in. My battery's
oh,
draining on my phone. So
David, you're fine. Trust me.
okay.
We're just y'all. I appreciate him coming on. It's like I was asking him a few questions today. I didn't really. I did the time difference and everything. He said, "Were you going to ask me to be on it?" I said, "On the show." I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of was, but I didn't, know." And I'm like, "You know what? We got time today if David does." So
Yeah, I'm
go ahead.
really I'm honored to be here, honestly,
I,
Roger.
hey, I'm glad you're here. Um,
You're one of the good guys. Everybody knows that. So
don't ruin my reputation. No,
don't,
no.
don't let them know.
Y'all, and while we're here and we're being relaxed, um, y'all in the chat, y'all know I get focused on the stories and the guests. And I don't have a co-host, and I see y'all's questions, all of them, but sometimes I miss them. So I can go back and look. Just like Blue Eyed, I was like, I felt that. I felt that comment earlier. But yeah, and then sometimes I forget, like, oh well, I can highlight. I keep forgetting, and but see, what I love about this is you guys, David, and you know, Blue Eyed, Sherry, Richard, all y'all can answer the questions. And sometimes I see that and I'm like, yes, they got it for me, and I appreciate all the help. And none of us get paid for any of this, but it's like a team effort that we really didn't put a team together. It's just kind of like drawn in. And but anyway, we're going. You tell me to shut up, but go ahead. Let us know what got you interested. And you know, I've heard some of it, but I didn't get to hear all of it because I came in late on the Woodwalkers deal. So just start wherever you want to.
Okay. So basically, I guess starting off like my dad telling me and my younger brother stories. And my dad really wasn't a believer. I think he was a knower, but he didn't want to believe it. And he was from Arkansas, and he talked about some things happening there. I can't really remember very clearly some of those things,
Right.
but like some stories, a few things, noises and tracks and stuff like that he would tell us about. And then this place we lived at, there it was a strange place. On Woodwalkers, I talked about my dad chaining one of the doors shut because it was like a heavy feeling room, kind of like
Oh yeah.
a haunted room, I guess.
Yeah. I
And so
felt
my
that before. Yeah, I know
it,
what you're talking about.
really heavy. You'd walk in there and it just felt bad, and wrong and dark. Even if it was lit
Yeah.
up, it felt dark. And so my room was directly across from that room in this mobile home. And the first real, I guess, experience that I would say that I had was laying there in the middle of the night with my kittens, and my older brother, was sleeping next to me. And we lived in this place for only like a couple of months, I think, total. And my brother Charlie had found this huge footprint, and he was like, "Mom, I found a Bigfoot footprint," and like that. And my mom was like, "Son, it was probably a double step bear track." And my brother was probably about 15 or something, and I had just turned from 8 to 9. It's kind of funny because I just remember schoolwork. I had accidentally put 1979, and I had to change 1980. So that's the only reason why I can
Right.
actually remember the date. And so anyway, he was like, "No, mom, it was huge. It was big tracks, like a trackway of them." And you could, all of us kids, there's 6 of us kids, we could all tell that he was serious and
Yeah.
scared. And so then I can't remember how long after that, but pretty soon we started hearing like the woman like being murdered or raped kind of sound, that scream. And
So
it come from off the mountains up behind us, and it'd be at night only.
let me ask you this. And when I ask questions, it's usually because of some experience I had or people I talked to. Have you ever heard, or any of you in chat, have you ever heard, in a place where there shouldn't be anybody? He was talking about the scream. Have any of you ever heard the like a woman laughter almost?
I have not personally myself.
But I'm kind of thinking it may be because we hear you hear this people talking about the kids laughing and playing and stuff like that where there shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm I'm starting to agree with some people in chat that I do notice y'all. Oh, when you make comments, I'm starting to agree that maybe some weirdness going on, and it might be trying to draw you in because the sounds that you describe, if you right now at your age, not as a kid maybe, but that might draw you in to try to help somebody, right?
That's a great point, because I remember our whole family would sit there with the window open and just listen to it. And you always get the comments that it was a bobcat, it was a
Right.
mountain lion, it was this and that. Well, it would have to have some huge lungs. I know they can be loud. I'm not saying that, but this was like supernaturally loud kind of stuff.
Well,
And
yeah,
yeah,
and that's a great point, David. So a lot of times, a lot of us here, a lot of people in chat. When I say here, I say people in chat, the ones that watch these shows regularly, we have experience with the outdoors. So if you tell me, and I tell you, I said, David, I heard a bobcat the other night. Sounded pretty big. Well, it's probably a bobcat. But if you
mm-hmm.
tell me with your experience, I heard something and it was louder than a mountain lion. It was louder than, and the some of the things I've heard, you can immediately, just like you said, the lungs, the diaphragm, the mass of this thing has to be huge
Mm-hmm.
because of the volume and how far the sound carries or whatever. So that's a great point, and I know I don't have to explain that to people here because they know, but there'll be people that watch this later, you know, and they'll say, "Jack, I've been there, David. Well, are you sure it wasn't it wasn't whatever?" And I'm like, "No, it was not. I'm telling you."
Like when you hear the 1,000-pound owl sound, it's like, well, that owl sure to have some freaking giant lungs.
Well, but I've told this before, but me and Peyton, we were doing something out at one of the north end hotspot, and he won't go during the night usually because of that ordeal that happened with us. But we were out there during the day, and he can do an owl call. Like, I mean, I can do one, but it sounds like somebody mimicking one. When he does it, I mean, he gets the chatter back. Pretty much if they're in the area, they'll fly in. They'll come on in closer. well, we had heard these stories, like you said, about the 300-pound, 500-pound owl, and he did it a few times, and we heard some legit owls. And I said, this one over here is coming in, I think. And then all of a sudden, we heard one. It sounded like it was on the ground, and it was bigger than me. And he turned and looked at me, and he said, "What the hell was that?"
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't an owl. So now you put it together with all this other stuff that's happened.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether to believe that or not. It's what we hear on these shows about the owl. But when we heard that, he said, "Look, I've been doing this a long time, and I don't know what the hell that was." So anyway, yeah, you're right. So you know, see, you're a go-to guy for some of us, because and Sherry and Misty and people that have been around the bears. I don't know what a bear smells like. I haven't been that. I've been close to one, but I wasn't that close. So when you field dress an animal or whatever, deal with it. You you get up and close and personal, right? So you know their smells and those sounds too. So what kind of sounds would a bear make in the woods? I mean, do they make several different types?
They do. They'll make huffing sounds, like huff sounds. Like when a bear's nervous. Like I've treed cubs and had them treed right by me. Was standing there checking them out, and Mama was like bluff charging me into the brush, and she'd back off. But every time she would come running, she was going ba 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 ba, like making that. Yeah, making like a ba 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 sound. And then another one they'll do when they're nervous, or usually it's nervous. They'll pop their teeth. You can hear them pop their teeth really loud. Those are really the three sounds that I've heard me personally.
Well, and you know, that's good to know. I mean, there's a difference. YouTube and they're great for learning sounds, but there's a difference in hearing them live and close, and hearing it on tape, because a lot of times the taped version doesn't do it justice as far as like you know, the actual volume of it or whatever. So, and it's just like you the other day when I found those tracks, you know, somebody asked me, I think it was Mike asked me later, he said, what did you think when you saw that big one? And I'm like, Mike, it scared the crap out of me. I'm 100 yards from the truck. That one was undeniable. Okay. But then when I went down, and these others are kind of strange, the 13, 14 inches, and I asked you, was it a double step? Did it look like a bear track? You know, now I could go look that up, you know, a diagram and look it up or whatever, but you have an experience. You was like, absolutely not. And that rules that out. I couldn't tell what it was, but it had toes and maybe claws. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But see, we don't experience that here. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But I've got some stories of regular animals scaring the crap out of me in the woods at night. What do y'all have out there that would make me from Tennessee jump off a cliff into the water or something? You know what I mean? Like panic. Are there any animals out there that just make horrific sounds?
Well, I know, like we call them cougars here, but mountain lions, they can make some weird sounds. Even gray fox. A gray fox will do like like a big bullfrog kind of sound, kind of a weird bellow sound, I guess. But there's wolves. I don't know if a wolf would make you go into the water. But basically, I would think that, you know, the sounds that I've personally heard, I don't think they were a natural animal, like, you know, your natural wildlife sounds that were really, you know, anything that would freak you out, stuff that might make your hair stand up a little bit, you know, and kind of just hearing any wild animal, you know, especially a predator, might get you on edge a little bit. But
okay, so now I've asked you these questions, and the people that'll watch this later, and the people in chat, you've got a sound bank, like Bama calls it, Bama Murdoch. Everybody knows him. He used that word one night, and I thought that's awesome, because that's really what it is. I have my sound bank from the Southeast. You have yours from the Northwest. So now I think you've heard things in the woods that you couldn't explain.
Yes, sir.
All right, now you know where I'm leading to now. Right?
Uh,
So tell us about some of that, if you would.
so so really, I would say, besides having stuff happen through my life, just smaller stuff, um, that 2019 we were elk hunting, me and my wife and my sister. My sister had never been up to the woods where we go elk hunting at. And she followed us up there in her little car. And this was the end of August, beginning of September when all this happened. And we hunted this spot for like 15 years straight and camped out. We camped in a tent all month long. The first year me and my wife moved here to Oregon. And never had anything that was out of the ordinary. Everything was normal until 2019. And that started off the night we got there, about 10 o'clock at night. Boom, big old knock came from the ridge. And we're talking, this place is rainforest, like really, really thick. And my sister's like, well, we got company. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, well, that big old knock up, I just heard a big bang up there. I'm like, there's nobody up there. And because I mean, there's not even a road up there. It was just it's almost impenetrable. I've tried before to crawl up under the brush and through the trees. I mean, it's just thick. And so there was days going on of every day and every night there was something happening, some weird sounds and knock sounds. And so I'll just kind of get down to it.
You're good.
About the 7th night we were there, 6th or 7th night we were there. My sister smoked cigarettes, and every night we had like our lantern out, and I'd usually had my shotgun with slugs and stuff sitting there and my flashlight and stuff. But this night we decided just to kind of go kind of dark. And so we only had a mosquito candle burning, one of those mosquito candles. And my shotgun was in the camper. My flashlight was in the camper, and I just had on this little cheapy old Walmart headlamp. And I had it on the green setting because it kind of reflects eyes really well. So every time my sister would get up to smoke, she would kind of go to the edge of this gravel road we were camped on. We're like 11 miles up this gravel road. There was one other camp, maybe about 3 or 4 miles from us, and that was it. I mean, you're talking tens of thousands of acres of woods. And so she got up to smoke and stood in the gravel, getting away from me and Dee Dee because we didn't smoke. So I would get up and just turn on my headlamp and kind of shine around just to make sure there was nothing there while she was smoking. And it was about 10:30 at night or something probably. And she got up to smoke, and I stepped up with her and looked right across the road from us. And I looked down the road to the right, nothing. And I turned to the left, and like 30 yards from us probably, and right off the edge of the road, but up on the edge of the road, but right on the edge of the road was these ginormous eye shine, just like a couple feet off the ground, like it was low. And that's what kind of got me at first was, my first instinct was there's a bear. And so I looked and I was like, oh, we got eyes. And my sister's like, we do. And she turned and looked. She was like, and just started hyperventilating. I mean, because they were huge and they were far apart and they were just like electric yellow, as what, almost green, like eye shine. And I don't know if it was because of my headlamp was on green or what. And it was just locked on me, and it didn't blink, didn't turn or nothing. And Dee Dee was sitting in her chair next to the camper still, like probably 15 feet behind me or something, 20 feet behind me. And my sister goes and freaks out, kind of locks her dogs in the car, which I don't know. That was like her panic moment. And she came back up to me, and we're still locked onto each other. And she sees it again. It's just like, and goes panicking back towards my wife. And so I'm like, babe, I need the flashlight and the shotgun right now. And, I'm still locked on it. We're just like looking at each other.
Because at that point, you know where it's at if there's just one. And if you turn away, I understand why you're doing what you're doing. Get me what I need, please, because I've got this thing located. And if I turn my light away from it, I don't know if it goes left, right, or what, right? So
or at it, or what. Yeah,
exactly. So
I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was a cougar, if it was an elk, or or deer or
right,
bear. I didn't know what it was at first. My first instinct was a bear, but
right.
inside I knew that, man, bears' eyeballs, they're like ours. They're real close to our nose. Their eyes are pointed forward, not like a
Mhm.
prey where they're on the side. So their eyes are close together. And that was the only thing in the back of my mind that I was thinking while I'm looking at this. I'm like, man, it just it doesn't look right for a bear. So my
Well,
wife, I could hear her go in the camper, and I could hear her like thumping around. She was getting my gun and the flashlight. And the whole time I'm just staring, and this thing's just staring back, not blinking, not churning. And she comes up and she bumps my arm. She's like, "Here you go." And literally, I turn like boom and turn back, and that thing was gone that
you
fast.
took the opportunity because we've heard some great encounter stories close up, and sometimes I think they get caught in a situation also. And I've heard that so many times where you look away and look back and it's gone. But here's something I'm going to bring up, and I've said this before, but you've been out in the woods all your life. Uh, we know a lot of people that's been like that. If you see something that doesn't look right, something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because you've seen everything you could think of with eye shine at night, probably. And uh, there's been times, Peyton, him and some friends before I even told him about my story, I didn't know it, but they're good kids, but they would get out and run at night like we used to, and wouldn't bother anything. But they would be out. We would have a fire when I was younger and sitting on a creek bank, and they were doing the same things. Well, he starts telling me stories later about them having, back in our, I don't know, how old are you, David?
How
How
old
old
am
are you?
I? I'm
Yeah,
52.
I am too. Okay, so when we had flashlights when we were 15, they would barely light up your hand in front of you, just
Yeah,
enough to see, not to kill yourself on a rock or something. Now,
that's
these
right.
flashlights that they had access to were the 200, 500, 900, 2000 lumen, and would light up a whole field or whatever. So he was telling me one time that he had about a 800 lumen flashlight or so, and they heard something in this big field that they had their fire going in, and he hit that light over there, and he said, "Daddy, just like you said," he said, "the eye shine was strange because of the width." And he's the animal guy like you. If I look at it long enough, I'll pick up on stuff. But he recognizes pretty quick, and he'll tell you every animal where their eyes are located, and how narrow and how far, if they're on the side or if they're in the front. He knows all that because he studied animals, his whole life. And when you see something like that, I've heard people tell me stories, and they'll say, I've coon hunted all my life in Southeast. That was here in Tennessee. That was a huge thing back when I was little. Get your dogs and go have your little light, your wheat lights on top of your head, they called them, and head out. And you could see the eye shine. I've seen eye shine so much that by the color you can tell pretty much what it is. But I have also seen eye shine, just like Peyton. I can't, and like you're telling me, you can't tell you what it was.
Yeah.
And we can't say what it was. We can't say, oh, it was Bigfoot, Dogman, or the wood booger. We don't know, but we do know it wasn't something that was normal that we saw all the time. Because
Yeah.
if it was, you would never thought twice about it. If you knew it was a moose or whatever, you might want to keep your eye on it. As big as those things are, I've never
Yeah.
been around them, but it's not something to be scared of. And I saw a single red. I thought it was. I thought it was one of those driveway markers at first.
Mm-hmm.
Where you have the reflectors, the blues and the reds and the whatever.
Yep.
Well, to make a long story short, I was driving. I left Peyton's house a few years back, and I had seen wolves up there back in the past. But this thing whatever it was way up in this tree, and there were no limbs. There was no way up, and it was just one. And at first, I thought it was one of those things that somebody tacked up into a tree. I thought somebody's been up here messing around, right? And
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't what it was, because now I don't even know if it was reflection, if that makes sense. You know, I
Like it
don't
was
know what it was.
kind of thing.
Maybe it was just strange. Well, it was strange enough. Now I'm not going to say what I think it was because I don't know, but it was strange enough that I turned around up on top of Devil's Backbone at midnight and came back down just to see what it was. It was gone.
Mm.
Went down, turned back around. The next day or so, I came back and I looked to see it was 12, 14 foot up in a tree. It would have had to been no limbs for an owl to stand on, right? And and I to this day, I can't tell you what it was, but it was strange enough that I investigated it, right? And so we see these things. If it had been an owl, I pretty much would have known that right away. And you can see animals that they'll blink their eyes. If you're looking at something, whatever, so that whatever was looking at you was on alert. It didn't want to miss anything either, I would think, because it wasn't blinking.
I
So
agree, and that was the other thing. I was thinking, well, the distance that the eyes were apart, the
mhm,
size of the eye shine, and the puzzle. Trying to puzzle it all together in my brain in like a split second, and then how close they were to the ground, and then the not blinking, like it was locked. That part to me was kind of the red flags. And my
right,
flashlight was like a thousand lumen, not my
right,
headlamp, but my flashlight. So when I lit it up, I mean, it lit up, but
yeah,
that thing literally had to have left. And we're talking, like I said, such thick area,
mhm,
so thick a brush without a sound. And it would have had to have, I mean, like instantly been gone, because I
yeah,
didn't look at my wife while she's walking up. I just looked, like grabbed it and turned right
right.
back. And
Well, that's another thing, David. Me and Peyton have seen lights in the woods where there shouldn't be anything. Okay, so we're sitting there watching. My wife, we saw the orb for about 20 minutes or so. We're sitting there watching this thing, and it's been there for a good while. I said, "What do you think that is?" And we're talking about 80 yards to 100 yards away, maybe 80 yards to the edge of the woods, 15 to 20 yards inside the woods. It was wintertime. So what could that be? He said, the only thing that could be is somebody trespassing, and that looks like a phone. You know what a phone looks like if somebody looks at it in the woods,
mm-hmm.
And but this is coming from a point you made. Um, it finally went out and it went away. We didn't hear anything. We went back this year. He said, I want to check something out. So, what is it? I want to go over where we saw that light and see what kind of terrain it is. And just like you said, it would have took a fool to be out there at midnight with just a flashlight. You talking about ankle breaking rocks,
Mm-hmm.
locust thorn trees with locust thorns 3 to 4 inches long, uh, and almost caverns, right, or crevices in these rocks. So we could we couldn't even think about walking through there in the daylight. And what you're so I know what you're saying. When you look at some terrain, and you would need a bobcat or a bulldozer to cut you a path in them, and you still might not be able to do it with that. What is this walking in there without
Yeah.
making noise? You
Yeah.
know, and so and you've heard Mike, you've heard Mark Green, you've heard several people talk about when these things leave and they're in a hurry, they drop down all fours and they talk about the speed, but that doesn't explain the no sound.
Exactly.
So that's strange. I mean, I don't want to take over the conversation, but when you're making these points, I think sometimes they need to be pointed out, and because you've been a hunter all your life, and you can assess a situation in 5 seconds. Where it may take me, if I'm in your shoes in your area, not in my area, it may take me a while, and then I have to go learn. But you've been experienced in all these places. You know, the only thing that I've seen. Well, let's put this back. I don't make a statement like that. I have seen animals do things they normally don't because of, I always say this, pressure. Whether it's hunting pressure, something spooks it, a predator gets after it, and I've seen deer jump off of 200-foot bluffs and die because they're running from something, and they just all they knew was they were trying to get away from whatever that was, and land on the interstate, the side of an interstate. Uh, that's not normal behavior. But as soon as I saw the deer, maybe hung up in the rocks or whatever, it come from up there, and it just didn't do that for the fun of it. So something pushed it. So, you know, I imagine you've seen some pretty strange things yourself.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Like, um, just animals huddled up together, or like herds of elk huddled in like a circle, and they're just kind of going round and round, like they didn't have a direction to go. That kind of stuff. Just kind of
Yep.
not really anything to be like, oh man, like definitive, but just kind of make you scratch your head. And so this thing, when it took off, like I said, the thing was so fast to leave that fast for one thing, and then the no sound. So the next morning, so my sister was like, what do you think it was? I'm like, she goes, do you think it was a bear? And I said, well, if it was, that it acted strange, just locking on like that and coming around camp, for one thing. These aren't like dump bears or trash bears or nothing. These are like wild. And so I said, well, if it comes back, one of us is going to be in trouble, it or us, because it's going to be a problem. So the
I
next
just had
morning,
a I
sorry.
just had a thought. I'm gonna scare you. What if it was intelligent enough to shut its eyes and stay still?
Well, I lit it up with 1,000
Okay.
lumen flashlight.
Okay. It was just a thought. Yeah, that's you don't think about that, right?
Yeah, and that's funny because I have thought about that. What if it didn't leave? What if it just closed its eyes? That's a good point. Good
Go
point.
but go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's
That
okay.
when you were saying that, I'm like, oh crap, that's a scary thought. But
That would be freaky thought though, man. I would have to keep that in mind. So
because
the next morning, instead of leaving right before daylight to go elk hunt, I wanted to go over and check that out. So
yeah.
we all got up and walked down there, and the only thing you could see, because this is like a hard packed gravel road that we were camped beside, like a little side, I don't know what, like a little pull out we were camped on.
Hmm.
And so when I walked down there and looked, you could see where the gravel was scuffed a little bit, like where it pushed itself back over the little
Hmm.
bank, because it's like a little bank right there. And you could see in the grass, because it's kind of like not really grass. There is grass, but it's kind of like young salmonberry. They're just a brush that grows here, and also mint, just wild mint.
Hmm.
And you could see where that was kind of mashed down on the edge of that bank. And my thought was, well, this thing, whatever it was, wasn't standing on the road. It was over the bank and like laying up with its upper body looking from the road. And that was kind of a red flag to me. And I red flags were just going off, but I just was writing everything off, just for days we'd been doing that, like hearing stuff. And I was like, well, it could have been elk fighting, or a herd of elk running through the brush that we were hearing, or whatever. But the ninth night is what kind of tied it all in, and it goes to the big 1,000-pound owls and everything like that. And so on the ninth night, it was right after dark, so this is like early September, so it was probably about 9:30 when it got dark. And it just got dark, and this owl started hooting probably about 100 yards away from us across that flat, like where that thing had been laying up on the road. It dropped down, and then that flat went for like 100 yards back through the trees. And there was a creek back there and stuff. and this owl started hooting. And my sister, she loved it. She, like I said, she never really was out in the woods that much and never been around here in these woods. And so she thought it was funny. So I was like, let me answer back. And she goes, okay. So I answered back. And every time the owl and me were going back and forth in conversation. And come about 10:30 at night and stuff. And the owl's still hooting. And my sister, she'd kill me if she knew, but she had her drunk on and was like laughy drunk and stuff. And her calls were so funny, Roger. It sounded like some cat getting ran over by a car or something. It was really bad.
Having fun.
But it kept the conversation going with Al. So finally, Dee Dee wanted to take our little dog to the bathroom, and she was getting tired and wanted to go to bed. So me and Dee Dee and the little dog walk over, and we're trying to get our dog to go to the bathroom. And this whole time, Cindy and the owl are still talking back and forth, and she's actually recording this on her phone. She still has it on her phone. And at one point I was like, hey, Cindy, remember on Jurassic Park when the Velociraptor was keeping the guy's attention while the other one snuck behind? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's probably what's happening right now. We were laughing about it. You can hear it all in the recording. But finally Dee Dee was like, I think Cindy's making the dog nervous doing the owl calls and she won't go. And I was like, okay. It's like, hey, Cindy, do you think you can stop calling for a minute so the dog will go to the bathroom? And she's like, oh, okay. Well, she turns off the recording of the phone. This is like classic, like, well, why didn't you get it on recording? Well, this is why. Right. She turned off the phone when she stopped calling. And so a couple minutes later, the dog still didn't go. So I pick up the dog. Me and Dee Dee walk over there, and we just get to my sister at the back of our camper, and the owl goes off again. So we all three stop and are looking in that direction. And this is when it was not a normal owl. It went like that, ooh, 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 and it went at the end. It just went, and it kind of dropped down to like this weird, like we call it the angry owl sound. And then immediately, just to the left of that, this yip yip, like a coyote yip, and then a little further to the left of that, just this. The biggest roar you ever heard. It was ringing the trees, and you could feel it in your chest.
Yeah.
And all three of us and the dog were just like locked looking at that. And I'm serious, Roger. I'm not afraid of anything. I have respect for all the animals out there. I know a bunch of them take no problem. But this thing, the sound, I don't know if it was infrasound with it or what, but all three of us had tears coming down our cheeks. And I was like, what the F is that? And I try not to cuss, but I just threw that out because I couldn't figure out what it was.
Well, you heard the audio where I cussed, and I didn't even realize I did it. And what I was responding to wasn't what Kumbo seems to think was we've talked about it, other things, maybe a young male, juvenile, but what I was responding to, which didn't show up hardly on the phone audio, was the volume of air and this.
Yes.
I could almost visualize the nostrils it would have took for this volume of air to come out and this huff growl, I call it. I didn't even realize I cussed till we went back and watched it, and Mark took that out for me. But let me tell you a story. So, see, I don't remember. I have a hard time remember what I've told because of timelines and shows that I do talking to people and the shows that I do talking about my stuff. I really haven't talked about a lot of things for the last 2 or 3 months. We've had a lot of things going on. But we talked to a guy. He came to my son. There's a lot of people watching this show that never get in chat. Some of them are local. Some of them, well, you remember that thing you heard or what you saw, you need to watch this show, right? And they'll contact either a member of my family or me. And so this guy contacted Peyton and got to talking and put us on speakerphone. And I was finishing his sentences for him. He was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And the reason I could is because the people in chat here, all of their experiences, your experiences, and the people I've talked to, I could ask him questions, right? Because of what we're learning.
Yep.
And so um here's what got him. He found a boneyard. Okay. We went and looked at it, and my son immediately said, "Hey, how long have y'all owned this place?" He said, "Well, it's been in the family over 50 years, almost 60 years. Have you ever owned horses?" "No." "Does any of your any of your neighbors ever had horses missing?" He said, "No." "Why?" And I looked at him. I'm like, there's three of them come from somewhere, and something ate them. We can
Oh,
see the bones, right? So these bones are scattered in a probably a 25-yard, maybe radius or whatever. So at the creek, okay, so the corner of this huge field are the bones. And I do know farmers, around here, they'll have a death, a livestock, and they'll drag them to a spot. He said they've never done that on that place. But we found everything from a horse, of course, deer, cow, to small animals like coyote, maybe coon or possum or whatever. And what was wild was some of the skulls were split open. Right.
that
that's
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 strange.
what we were thinking. And some of the bones, the tough bones, were broken. Now I don't know. I don't think maybe that happened during the killing, or maybe something broke it open and ate marrow out of it. Because we know the cavemen used to survive off of scavenging like that. The stuff I've read and heard. But
Yep.
so we found these. I don't know how many. It was tons of bones. But we found that those four prints, about 5.5, 6 foot apart. And that's what Peyton noticed first, was the distance was consistent. Like we can't say what they were, because we just don't have good enough pictures or whatever. So anyway, but what got me about this guy's story was him and a buddy were hunting maybe a couple years ago, and up on where we were standing at the boneyard, I'll call it, looking across this huge field, and then there's a fence line, and then another field, and then hardwoods on top of this hill. Perfect hunt spot. Um, they were walking over there, and he said he was on the right, this other guy was on the left. He heard something, and before he could respond to it, they were deer hunting, had their rifles. He had a scream that was so deep and so loud of volume. He said, I immediately fell to the ground and almost a fetal position, dropped his gun, was covering his ears. I said, why did you do that? He said, I needed it to stop. He said it was hurting. He said
Mhm.
the other guy bent over and started vomiting profusely.
Whoa.
And yes, and he said this thing. He said what? He said not only was it loud. He said it wasn't too far away. Not only was it loud, it lasted. You know, he said it seemed like forever. But so they went back. They talked about it. He said we didn't want to hunt there anymore. We talked about it. We went back because early 20s, the macho thing we used to call it, and not want to be a punk or whatever. They went back. He said we found a footprint in the mossy, marshy type area. He said I definitely ain't been back after that. I said what did it look like? He said there was 5 toes, and it was huge, and it mashed down in that marsh. He said he said I heard Peyton talking about some of this stuff, and I listened and listened and listened, and I think he snuck and watched some of these shows. Finally, where he got comfortable enough, because I had said on the shows, if you want to come to us or come to me and stay anonymous, that's fine. And so because of that, we've got to see maybe a trackway, maybe a boneyard from something, and we have a place to go now. And we got to explore up on this. There was 30 something acres up on this knob. It's the terrain you're talking about.
Mm.
That's tough, right? He said nobody's ever been up there because we don't know how to get up there. So we went around and looked, and we found a way up. And I said, y'all, I said, if I wanted to, wearing the clothes I'm wearing now, we're going hunting, I could sit up here and watch you guys all over that way, and you never would know I was here. And he said, I said, have you ever heard anything strange over here? Well, I was talking about the screams. He said, no, but I walked, and this is before we found the tracks in the creek, in that old sloppy mud. So I said, have you ever heard anything over here that made you, not want to come over here or whatever? He said, no. He said, a few weeks ago, I heard something. I walked up, was coming up to the creek. I was getting ready for to go hunting, and he was checking something out there. There's his great granddad had built some stone fences. He intricate stone fences. There was a lot of rock down there, and just not something you would put in a fancy neighborhood, but just something like somebody with a hobby would have done. So there's these stone fences, probably 2.5 foot tall to 3, and then some places 1.5 foot. Nothing perfect, but cool. It's really cool. So he was checking out that. There's a trail that comes out of that creek. He said, I walked up on the creek. I was coming to it, and I heard something sound like, that slurp. I said, something drinking? He said, no, like sloshing, like something was stepping in the creek, but pulling that mud up, and that water was, that sound you get. And I'll be damned if we didn't walk down through there and see those 4, I'm gonna say tracks.
Yeah.
Now I don't know what they were, but there was something came through there, and it was too far. I'm sorry, David. But see, we don't get to talk. Well, we don't get to talk about stuff like this much, and but because of the show, I don't know where I was going with it, but because of that, we got there. Listen to this. We got there, and they're like, "You want to ride in the truck?" He said, "I'll carry you down to that bottom corner. I'll show you those bones." And I think I had the video tested my camera out that day. I said, "I'm going to walk." Are you sure? Well, yeah, I want to walk, because I want to see the field. I want to see. I'm taking everything in. My son stopped him. He said, "What is that over there in that thicket?" And it was close to me. And went over there, and there's a tree fall, dead tree fall, and there was a bone. I can't remember if it was a vertebrae off of a bigger animal. There was a bone sitting on top of this tree that had fallen. There was no squirrel or rabbit teeth marks where they'll eat that for the calcium or whatever. I looked right at this guy. I said, "Are you messing with us?" I mean, because I like doing that. I like to get a reaction from people. I worked at the sheriff's department for about 2 years right out of high school. I was 19 and 20, but I was in some interrogation stuff, and I didn't learn a lot. But what I did like was asking a question somebody's not expecting and getting their reaction. So I looked right at him. I said, "Are you messing with us?" And he was like, at first he didn't know what I meant by that. How he could have been messing with us. It was genuine. I said, I don't know how this happened right here, because maybe a raccoon brought it up there. For what reason? I've never seen small animals bring, just carry bones around unless they're going to gnaw on them. Well, he said, well, we've been up here and we've been getting ready for hunting season, and we had that, and it's the first time we've been up here for that since the screams knocked us down. Right? And I'm like, so y'all been up here messing around this area? He said, yeah. And I'm like, okay. I don't know what that was, but just for a split second, I thought, is this guy legit? Because that was so strange, But when you're camping, when you tell us, when David says, y'all, I'm going to be out of pocket for a little while, I'm going to camp, and we don't hear from him for 2 weeks. So that, what I was going to ask, I get sidetracked. When you do go to these areas, I've heard that if people go camping for a couple of days, and then some of y'all blue-eyed, y'all, Chev, I don't know, some of y'all may go do this. Y'all might can answer this question too. if you go camping for a couple of days, you might not have anything happen. But if you stay out past your welcome, like you said, the ninth day, like, hey, these people done moved in, we got to run them out. I hear that a lot of people, the fourth and fifth and past that is when they start getting the strange, occurrences.
I
Have you
agree with
noticed
that.
that?
I agree with that 100%, Roger. Even though um, in 2019 it started off right away that first night, but little
Mhm,
stuff, and it could have easily been overlooked, and just
mhm.
been wood noises if you weren't accustomed to the sounds of the woods or whatever. But I agree that the longer you're there, the seems like the more it ramps up. And the reason why we were there was because it's in this bottom, there's ridges on both sides and the creeks down the bottom where we were camping. The elk are always in there, and the conclusion that I can come up with, well, not the only, but one of the conclusions that I came up with is that they were hunting elk too,
Mhm.
and that we were, they gave us a few days to kind of be in there, and then we didn't leave, and we started mimicking their sound stuff. I think that they finally just got tired of it and had enough.
And it makes sense. I mean, the things that happened to me, I'm country as hell, y'all. The things that happened to Peyton and I, um, it seemed like we were going in a couple times a week. Started maybe with the owl, the 300-pound owl, and I'm gonna be calling it that forever now. Um,
Yep.
Started with kind of little stuff like that, but then the ending of it was the tossing of boulders, the tree breaks, the huff growl, the howling, and all this stuff where we felt threatened, and then we didn't go back for a while. Matter of fact, when we got back, oh, you'll catch me cussing, but this is what he said. We got back to the truck, and then we replayed it over the truck speakers and had it turned wide open. I was like, "Yes, we got it, we got it, we got it." Not real loud, but we got it. And he said, "Daddy, I ain't doing that shit again."
Yeah.
And
It's
when he said
fun.
that, no, 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 no. There was something I was going to ask you. I thought of it right. Something we had talked about before. I'll think of it. It had to do. No, I lost it.
Okay.
Um,
I'll tell you, I haven't told this to like on Sawdust or on Woodwalker or anything, but me and my wife found what, if you want to call it a boneyard or whatever it was,
mhm.
same areas. And so just I'll kind of go back to the story real quick. So we left that night, like immediately. As soon as I said what the F was that, um like grab your crap, let's go. And so she grabbed her purse and stuff out of the camper, and we left my camper up there, and this is like leaving about 11 o'clock at night. um and it's like 2 hours, an hour and a half to get home or something from where we're at. But it was like we left our camper up there for a week before we finally went up and got it. And I almost quit hunting. I almost quit camping. That was, I mean, it was that serious. They're like, I
No,
don't
it's
know what was
horrible. I know. I know. I'm just when you abandon your camper, stuff done got real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it was like, "Let's go now." We didn't care, and so my wife was driving, and I had my shotgun out the window because we literally had to drive around that spot where the roar came from, and I didn't know if it was standing on the road. The sound came from that direction, but I had my shotgun and my flashlight out the window, like riding stagecoach, man,
Right.
just in case we had to shoot our way out or whatever.
Right.
But so like the next year, I think it was, we were up there hunting, and not exactly that same spot, but in the same woods, same patch of the woods, and talking about the bones. And so my wife was driving, and we were going up this road. We hadn't been up that road in a couple years, and it's a pretty steep road, and you're just winding your way up there and stuff. And come to the spot, and I'm looking, and like 20, 30 yards off the road on my side, it's a steep little drop right there. I'm trying to find the camera. Steep little drop, like a little narrow draw. And
Yep.
I'm looking down. I'm like, "Whoa, babe, stop!" And she stops, and I bust out my binoculars, brand new, nice Vortex binoculars and stuff, high powered. I mean, it's only right there, but I wanted to make sure what I was looking at. There was like 7 full sized, full elk carcasses, all bones. Like the bones weren't even disconnected. Like if you just strip the skin and meat off of them, full elk carcasses off down this bank. I'm like, whoa, babe, there's like 7 elk carcasses, elk skeletons. And one was hide that was like rolled up with like the inside out. So it was like really white and rolled up right there. And I'm like, man, there's like, and I'm trying to piece it together in my mind. And in one of them, I was like, oh, and there's one of the skeletons is draped over this old growth stump, like a red old growth stump. And while I was sitting there looking at it, and Dee Dee couldn't see because she was driving, and it was on my side. It was a really steep little hill right there, so she couldn't see over. But while we're sitting there, all of a sudden, just the loud, clear, freaking baseball bat to the tree knock came from right below that. And I turned and looked at her, and she looked at me, and I'm like, kill the truck, kill the truck. So she kills the truck, and I'm still sitting there looking and listening, and like 10 seconds later, just the same spot, just a loud knock. And I turned to her, and we're both like, let's get out of here, because we were, almost giving up hunting in this whole woods because of that 2019 stuff. So a week later, so we got home, and I told my sister, I'm like, you're not going to believe this. And so we told her what happened, and she's like, I want to go up there. I want to go up there. So we went up like a week later, and we get there, and Roger, it was like one of those things where I guess you would have to almost say like woo, going to the woo side, the strangeness side, because we get up there and get to the spot, and I'm like, it was right there, and we're looking, and the skeletons weren't there. The brush was high enough where you couldn't even hardly see from my truck window where I was sitting. You couldn't even hardly see over the brush to see down in there anymore. And this is like a week later, and the stump was not there. Like there was no stump there.
What the crap?
And I just shaking my head like, I don't understand what's going on here, because the stump is right there. And I'm talking, looking at it through binocular, and, studying it. And it looked like an old growth stump with a skeleton.
Was it a stump, right?
What's that?
So was it a stump?
That's the only thing I can think of. I have no idea what happened. No idea.
Okay. So when you see me, if you see me writing, I'll write a word or two down. There's something I did want to say. And this was it. It has to do with that knock you just said. So I think we've talked about this a lot. We don't know. I heard what sounded like something picked up a log and drug it to it and picked it up and then hit it, whatever. And we know if you try to do knocks, it's hard to do it the same every time or whatever, depending on what material you have here that you're using and what the tree. So this gave me an idea. Me and Peyton had a tree fail while we were in this same spot. Okay. After all that junk happened. So I've been hunting all these years. I've only been around 2 trees that fell while I was there. And that was that first one and the one I caught on video that fell the rest of the way while I was standing there with no wind. I know some of y'all have seen that. Well, so when a tree falls, you can tell if it's, alive and it's falling because of weight up here and the roots are popping and cracking. It's coming out of the ground, right? Or if it's half dead and it's falling from the middle and it sounds like kind of like fireworks where your roots will thump. They'll make that thump when they're, that. Well, I guess when that sound goes through the dirt, back into the dirt, whatever. So you can kind of tell, right?
Absolutely.
So thinking about that, what had happened to us, and I asked it one day, I wonder if some of these knocks, now this is reaching, I wonder if some of these knocks might be the hand or something where they're checking these trees and see if they're half dead or hollow. They might have bugs or coons, possums, whatever living in them. You said bears will push over. Didn't you say that? The bears will push over trees and dig stuff out?
Yeah, absolutely. And dig up stumps and stuff for the flying termites.
Yeah.
Ants, stuff like that. Absolutely. They tear into them.
So you think they would take a tree that was, upright and push it over to get to something?
Yeah. Yeah, I would assume they would.
So now you take something that's maybe bigger than some of these bears. What if that tree we heard that day. Now, like I said, it's a reach, but it was a thought I had. What if, the Bigfoot slaps a tree and it sounds kind of hollow, or maybe it smells that there's a family of raccoons living in there, right? What if it pushes it over to get food, or what if it goes through? Let's say I'm half stupid, y'all, but so the picture I had in my head was a Bigfoot walking through uh, a new forest or a part of a place that hadn't never been before, and just slapping a tree and like, oh, that one right there is half hollow. That's a good one to come back to and make a break maybe close by to mark like we mark trails.
Right.
That's a crazy thought, but I'm just saying, what if that some of that is checking to see if there could be possible food source inside, and maybe
That
they come back later to it.
it
I don't know.
actually perfect sense, Roger. It really does.
And so those dumb questions like that come from us talking, and the reason I go ahead and throw that stuff out there, and there might be people laughing now, like, what the heck? But it may trigger a thought from somebody that's smarter than me, right? That can, maybe. But anyway, David, we've been on hour and six. I want to do this again. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate people showing up. I've seen some comments. We'll that, and I know you got a lot more. But I don't want to use it all up in one setting. um, so Blue Eyes said, I like this subscriber spotlight. It's interesting. I like hearing everyone, not only just the researchers. I'm glad you're doing it in the daytime. Yeah, and so what happened? I had a unexpected day off. They had too many drivers, or too many, they had too many drivers, didn't have enough riders. So last night I was kind of thinking of asking David about it, and he's in a different time zone. So I got up at 3 o'clock this morning. I'd asked Daniel, who y'all saw earlier. I asked him because of his time difference is a lot different, and I answered him at 3:48 or something this morning. We set that up pretty quickly, and I appreciate him doing that. Then I was like, it'd be a good day to get David on, and because it is during the day, and we know a lot of people come back and they'll watch. And I was asking David these questions without trying to say what I was thinking, and he finally just came out. He said, "Were you thinking about asking me to come on?" Because his phone had died. That's why he didn't answer back. And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, I was." And I said, "We can do it another time." And I got to looking at the watch, and I've got a show tonight at 8, and I'm like, "Well, hell, we can do it now." If he, and I appreciate you. Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for everything. I'm going to send out your stickers. Like I said, I just got this in. Y'all, if y'all want some Squatch and Holler stickers, contact me on Facebook on Messenger, and I'll tell you how to do that. They're free. All I need you to do is send me a self-addressed stamped envelope. I won't show your address, and so when it comes in, when I get off here, I'm gonna pop a few in there. I may have a few more Bigfoot stickers or something to put in there, and I'll put it
Nice.
in my box, and it'll be on the way tomorrow. Oh, Daniel Lee is calling me. That guy I interviewed earlier. Huh.
Better
Well,
answer.
yeah. All right. Well, let me get off here, y'all, and answer him. But thank you, David. And I'm gonna let this go to. He'll probably see this. Why didn't you answer? I'll let him know I'm in the middle of the show, y'all. I'm not gonna do you like that, David.
Well, I'm going to kind of clarify this too, Roger, is that I'm definitely not a researcher. I mean, we've went out, just explicitly to go look at night and stuff, playing around. That I'm just like you, like an experiencer, just had experiences. I didn't look for it to happen or expect it or even want it. I don't want interactions myself. I mean, I don't know how you could have a friendly interaction. There's people out there that do, I know, or claim to and stuff, but
Yeah.
man, it's a monster in the woods. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. And so you know this, there's several sides. I don't want to offend nobody, and I'm not going to do anything to do that. But one video, I was testing my um, rig out that I had, and you saw it because you asked me about the gun. I had a gun with me, and I said right at the first, I said, may make some people mad, but here's the way it is. The ones that'll say that will be the ones that say they know your intentions, right? So I said, if that's the case, then they know my intentions. We're good,
Yep.
right? Because I'd already said to those in that area when we were scared, my son set his gun down. I didn't tell him to. He just had the feeling he needed to. I said, we're not here to hurt you. We're just trying to, we're curious and we don't want to be hurt either. We had one more small tree break after that. And then I asked him on camera, how do you feel right now? And he said, the whole feel of the woods just changed when you said that. I felt it was different. I mean, it was different. And I felt I wasn't threatened. So we continued what we were doing. But that's the thing. If they do know my intentions, then we're good.
Yeah. You're not out.
No, and that rifle, I had my wife and my dog with me, and my job is to protect them. Amen. So if I get a wild hog that runs up and ain't supposed to be there, or we run up on man, I've had everything try to bite me in 52 years, I've run up on stuff with rabies that I've had to take out because you don't want to be bit with something, and you could it was either distemper or rabies, something was wrong, and hell, even I don't even want to say it. There's just critters out there that like to bite you.
Yep.
And if I can get away without hurting them, we're good. But if I get in a spot where it's between that animal hurting my wife or me or whatever, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. And I know we're invading their space. I do understand that. We try to, like you said, respect the land, respect the animals that live there. Don't go in tearing a bunch of stuff up, leaving a bunch of trash, and making and you can't please everybody. And I didn't want to offend anybody, but I wasn't going to go out there without him. And it don't matter. I'm not naive. I could have had the biggest gun in the world, and something could have got me.
Absolutely. Yep.
It don't mean you're that safe. It just means you got a chance.
That's right.
Pyro said, I bite back. But y'all, anyway, thank you so much. I'm going to do some more of these. I appreciate you being my first one. I mentioned it to you before. I mentioned it to one other person, and I scared them.
Oh.
But it's like I don't. And the thing is, you have enough experience in the woods. We could talk for hours. But there's some people that have had things happen that maybe one instance that lasted 15 seconds, and they're like, "Well, I can't talk for an hour." Well, y'all that are watching this and blue eyed, I'll get y'all on. If I hadn't asked you yet, I'm thinking, and we're trying to I'm trying to do different stuff. So let's say if you have something that was 5 or 10 minutes that happened, or 5 minutes, you can come on and tell us what happened. I can ask questions, and the group can ask questions, and we'll do short videos like that. Or maybe we'll have 2 people on at one time.
Yeah.
And I'm not a researcher. I'm learning. I'm making mistakes every day because you don't expect to find some of this stuff. I don't. I've been very fortunate. Finding those tracks. A few weeks ago. How that happened? I was warned not to go to a few hollows by myself or just without few people. I read the list, drove 2 hours, stayed away from a couple of them, and forgot one. Went right in there, and I tried to get it documented as good as I could with the little camera that I had. I didn't have my reading glasses, so I couldn't really tell what was picking up. And when I got back, Heather had the windows rolled up and the doors locked because she had a rock came out of the woods from behind her, heavier than a golf ball, and bounced towards the truck while I was out there. When I got back, I had every intention of getting this in the truck. I was scared now, but going back out there and getting good pictures, and maybe finding something to put down beside, But once she said the rock was thrown, no, it's time to go. All right, looked like David froze up. Y'all, we're gonna end it right here. Thank y'all. Thank you, David. And I'm gonna I will. Hey, Chev, you gotta remind me of that when I get Pat on. Okay.
Yeah, I would love to hear short little stories.
Heck yeah.
I love hearing.
Heck yeah. This is fun. And I know I ramble. I'm so unprofessional and it ain't funny. But I don't care.
That's why everybody loves you though, Ron.
It's like sitting around a fire. I'll laugh at myself before anybody, you ain't gonna get a chance because I'm gonna do it first. Anyway, y'all. Hey, before I go, y'all that are in here, 8 o'clock Central tonight, Debbie and Larry Porch. I've been looking forward to this one because not only did they get married, y'all know that, but the tracks I found were in the same area that they casted some tracks. So we'll get a chance to talk about that. All right. We're getting off here for real this time. See you, David.
All right, brother. You have a good one.
Yes, sir. Be good.
We'll see you later.